Francoise Lamotte here in Switzerland.
This is Dominik Mugli in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our podcast, The Digital Edge, brings our perspective on the digital revolution with a cutting edge angle.
So today we are discussing about the hurdle in the pursuit of digital transformation. Let me start with saying what it is not. I've heard, for over 20 years that the issue is money. Like we don't have the budget, we don't have enough. We have projects for 20 million, and we have half of that. So this is usually one of the main challenge that is put on the table. And honestly, I don't believe this is true. Of course, we are always, fighting for more budget, but I think to that one, when there is a really strong business case, I believe you always find the money. And for example, one of the examples was when COVID hit. All of a sudden, a lot of organizations were able to work remotely or organize, video calls or whatever, when it was not the case before. We've seen that when there is a good case, there is, the way to mobilize resources. So I would just suggest that, if somebody says, we can't move forward because we don't have the money, I would argue that probably the case is not strong enough. What do you
Yeah.
think, Dominic?
Yeah, okay, let me build on what you just said. So I really like that, and it's actually something near and dear to my heart. In digital transformation, I always think of like there's two pieces to the equation, right? On, the high level. On the one end, there's a technology part, right? It's like, hey, do you have good technology? And do you understand your business or your problem that you're trying to solve? And there's a bunch of other stuff in between. But do you see an organization's ability to understand the technology, and you call it business case, right? To articulate, hey, is there value in undertaking a change, leveraging technology? Do you think that's a thing that's maybe missing in a lot of organizations to spell that out?
Yes, I think what I've seen a lot, especially in my main industry, insurance, that companies have been pushed to digitally transform because their system were becoming obsolete. Like,
Hmm.
the software was not maintained anymore. A lot of issues. So they were pushed by necessity. And a lot of the money is being put into sunsetting legacy systems and bringing new platforms. But when I talk about business cases, exactly thinking of, what is our strategy and how can we leverage technology to reach our goals, and how can we anticipate gains or efficiency gains or more revenues or cost saving, whatever. And this is very hard to articulate sometimes. So I would say that maybe most of the budgets are going to like emergency or some no alternative investments, like I need to replace the system because it's collapsing, rather than identifying a good business opportunity and understanding how the technology is going to help solve it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And the other the piece is like getting from the, even once you have that, right? You understand the technology, you know why you want it, and you understand the value it can bring. Then also being able to execute and get it on the road and get it into people's hands, right?
Mhm.
I was just thinking one other piece, that I've seen in my time is, uh, we these days we're used to a lot of good software, right? We have a lot of capability on our computers at home, on our iPads and iPhones, what have you, right? Everything is like touch interface and super straightforward and easy to use. And and in the business environment, I think we're facing a lot of software that's still not so great. right? Which is either complex to install, complex to adapt. There's a lot of requirements to consider, even for cloud hosted solutions. And the usability is oftentimes very poor as well, right? And so maybe you have like a strong IT department that can get the technology implemented, but then you also have the usability aspect, right? Where the people in the field and the users have to learn yet another piece of technology and change their ways of working, which is also a huge hurdle, right? Because that means you don't have the support then from the ultimate user at the end of the day. And so that feeds back into, I think, what you said again, the business case, right? The buy in, the openness to change. And I think that also has a lot to do with it that's oftentimes missing.
I think I would add that probably the biggest hurdle for me would be competencies. And I think it's twofold. One is in the IT team, do you have people, who master the latest technologies, who are good at understanding the technology, but also at, deploying it and making it custom to your business? So you have enough skills in the IT team. But on the other side is what you mentioned. We always say, or we often say that we don't have the competencies on the user side, and we need to train people, and maybe they don't want to use this new software, or they are resistant to change. And I think this part for me is less, as you mentioned, a question of having skilled users. It's more the issue of having poor interface. Because when you give a smartphone to anyone, usually in 10 minutes they master it. And we don't say, oh, you need to be trained to use an iPhone or whatever, because they have been thought to be like no training device. But in the business world, we still provide interfaces that are complex, that need a lot of parameters and stuff. So the gap in terms of digital is because, not so much because people are not skilled, but because we make things too complex, probably.
Right. I think so too. I think so too. There's a lot of opportunity. And of course it also comes at the price of scale, right? For a lot of the publicly available software, you have large companies with a lot of people working on that, right? That's a lot more is invested in some of these technologies and the apps that we use. And if you have a business software, right? I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because they're very, very large business software companies that also don't have the best and most usable software that there could be. So yeah, I think maybe there is some work to be done. I think for large enterprises, large software organizations that have enterprise software, that they can do a better job and make it easier for users to adopt technology, and also entice businesses, right, to change to their product and purchase their software more often.
And when you speak about enterprise software, I think another issue is, the size and the massive investment related to those implementations. And it's not, I want to try it, I want to test, I'm agile. No, you have to commit to a project that might last 2 or 3 years, that is going to cost dozens of millions of dollars and even more. And I think we need to find solutions that are a bit more agile, that can deliver some functionalities faster, because that is very scary. And actually, I heard an example from a bank that I will not name, that the CEO is about, will retire in the next 2 years, and replacing one of their core systems would be 100 million investment. Do you think that he's wanting to make that bet and deteriorate his results while is going to be out in 2 years? No. So you see that that's the problem, that having those huge investment that really impacts the business in a quite dramatic way. I think that's another big issue in terms of implementing those solutions.
Right. I agree. Especially if you don't have the guarantees that your investment is going to turn into results that you're expecting, right?
Mhm.
All too often that investment is made and we end up with taking much longer than expected and the value being significantly less than expected or promised, right? And so with these experiences and somewhat of a reputation, right, that digital transformation initiatives can have, then you naturally see scaling back from organizations and ultimately end up with what you said, this legacy solutions that have to be replaced someday, but maybe attempts to avoid until the last minute also. So
Absolutely. So, Dominic, if I ask you in 2 words to tell me the two main hurdles for digital transformation implementation, what would that be?
maybe I'll just give it in one. Humans.
Okay. All right. For me, my 2 words would be I think lack of agility and competencies. That would be my 2 words.
Okay, I think we have topics for future podcasts right there.
Exactly. So thank you, Dominique. So next time we'll be talking about the talent gap, how to find and retain talents or experts for digital transformation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for watching. Till next
Bye.
time.
Bye bye.
Bye.